Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtrathi, the voice of New Eden, and today we answer the question, can you still build things in EVE Online? Welcome to the video. We are going to be covering some basic industry stuff. I've been meaning to do this since the industry change happened, but due to faction warfare being relevant, it's become increasingly important. So we are going to jump directly into this. There is this post here that says, can you still do industry? This was posted today saying, can you still do it as a newish character? You know, I used to build stuff from scratch. Can you do it from scratch? So what we are here to do today to talk about is not only how you can do that, but how this is one of the best ways you can utilize your LP as a faction warfare pilot. So here's the thing. In faction warfare, you end up getting a lot of LP, like a lot of LP, all of the LP, too much LP. Any dedicated faction warfare pilot will soon find themselves with more LP than they could possibly liquidate and sell. And the question of like what you can possibly do to turn LP into money is like it's the question of the ages, right? Because there's so many people gaining faction warfare stuff that like the stuff that is worth a lot don't sell very fast and things are very volatile. So here is one of the things I like to think of it this way. If you are your client, then you are producing at maximum efficiency, right? Because you can buy on buy orders, you can sell on sell orders, all that kind of stuff. But if you buy it, if you're using it yourself, then you've already found a buyer. What I want to do is focus on how to use your LP to keep yourself stocked in equipment to fight. Because Navy equipment is some of the best equipment that you can have in faction warfare. And the good news is it's actually pretty easy to build, especially if you're in the convocation of Empyreans, because we have everything it takes in order to go from beginning to end. So let's look into that. First things first, we need a Catalyst Navy issue. We want to build this because a Catalyst Navy issue is just a better catalyst. It does a ton of damage, you know, whatever. And depending on your militia, this could be a Cormorant Navy or a Coercer Navy. They're basically identical. You go to the LP store and you buy the blueprint or just some LP and a little bit of ISK. And then we can look at what it takes. So we can see that a Catalyst Navy issue takes in 3 million ISK. And the Catalyst Navy issue itself is worth almost 20 million ISK. I understand that there may be more efficient ways of getting ISK per LP or whatever, but this is a pretty decent way. It's up there. But more importantly, this allows you to fly Catalyst Navy issues for the cost of a Catalyst. It allows you to fly Vexor Navy issues for the cost of a Vexor, right? That's where we're getting into this, okay? Now, the difference here, the Catalyst doesn't take quite as much minerals. It's only well, it's twice as much as a catalyst, but you get what I'm saying. At least it's 17 million ISK cheaper. So you have less materials for the catalyst, but the biggest one here is that you can see these life support backup units and auto integrity preservation seals. So we'll talk about the minerals in a second, but first of all, I want to talk about these two, okay? Because I have a cool little chart. I made a cheat sheet because that's what I do. Here is the cheat sheet for life support backup units and auto integrity preservation seals, as well as capital core and core temperature regulators. So here is all of the doodads that are required to make every subcapital faction, Navy faction ship, okay? As well as other things. So it all begins with these 4 materials: silicates, hydrocarbons, atmospheric gases, and evaporate deposits. And that actually begins, if we go back to the game, we can see that raw materials, moon ores, ubiquitous. So we have vitamins, cosite, sylvite, and zeolite. Each of these are for one of those things, right? Atmospheric gases, evaporate deposits, silicates, hydrocarbons. These 4 ore are the ore that are found in varying quantities in every high sec and wormhole moon. This is called the R4 reactables. All you need is to mine in high sec. If you mine a variety of moons, like we have a moon that's only zeolites, for example. So not every moon will have every one of them, but by mining in high sec, you can collect all 4 of these resources. No, it's not worth reprocessing Navy ships because you don't get back the doodads that you put in. These extra doodads do not get returned to you when you reprocess. So as you can see, silicates, hydrocarbons, atmospheric and evaporate deposits get used in various different combinations in order to build thermosettling polymer, carbon fiber, oxyorganic solvent, carbon polymers, and sulfuric acid. The bar here is which kind of fuel it takes, because these are reactions. Reactions, unlike blueprints, do not require research, but often require fuel. So if we can just look up one of these, we can see that carbon fiber comes from hydrocarbons, evaporate deposits, and 5 hydrogen fuel blocks. When you look at this chart, this is each one of these things requires 5 of that kind of fuel block, right? So Gallente, Minmatar, Gallente, Amar, Caldari, in order to build this stuff. Now, then these 5 substances get turned into reinforced carbon fiber and pressurized oxidizers. Now, reinforced carbon fiber is the big one, okay? So it takes 200 carbon fiber, 1 oxyorganic solvent, and 200 thermosettling polymers, which you can see like 1 reaction of carbon fiber, 1 reaction of thermosettling polymers, but a reaction of oxyorganic solvent makes 10 when it only requires 1. So you don't need to do these quite as often, but you need a lot of the thermosetting polymer and carbon fiber, okay? Which, by the way, does include all 4 materials. So you do need all 4 materials quite a bit. But it also means that you only need Gallente and Minmatar fuel to make the reinforced carbon fibers, okay? The pressurized oxidizers, however, require the carbon polymers and sulfuric acid. So there's your Amar and Caldari fuel blocks. Now, those reinforced carbon fibers get used in auto integrity preservation seals. This is the stuff that just recently got changed. So rather than needing the P1, it now needs the P2 that's above it. So we need 4 nanites and 4 super tensile plastics with 10 reinforced carbon fibers. Perfect. Now these are construction, these are manufacturing, but with these low numbers, even a researched BPO isn't going to give you that much of a difference unless you're building them at scale, okay? Then they can. Likewise, the life support backup unit requires test cultures and viral agents and reinforced carbon fibers. And then these 2 things go in every faction ship available. Likewise, core temperature regulators, this is what's required for battleships, that takes chiral structures and water, but it also takes reinforced carbon fibers, and that's when the pressurized oxidizers come into play. So when you need to build battleships or above, you need those pressurized oxidizers. Below battleship, you only need reinforced carbon fibers. Now, 50 core temperature regulators, so 50 battleships worth of core temperature regulators, plus self-harmonizing power cores and integrity response drones, that's how you make capital core temperature regulators. Those are required for every capital ship. There you go. That is basically demystifying the reactable portion of things. Let's jump back into our game. And now that we see that, okay, we can build these life support backup units and these auto integrity preservation seals pretty easily. That's great. Now the materials. So we've got tritanium, pyrite, and mexilon. Tritanium can be found in large quantities in HiSec, especially if you're a HiSec miner. Dense compressed Veldspar is incredibly useful for moving tritanium around. It's also good for selling. So if you can compress some dense Veldspar and bring it to market, that's probably one of the better things that you can sell as a miner in HiSec. The pyrite and mexilon, you're going to get in oodles of gobs of from the mining if you do it. As you can see here, all of these things, you're going to be getting a bunch of pyrite and mexilon, right? About half of the value of your rocks are pyrite and mexilon. So that's taken care of. So that leaves you with megasite, zydrine, noxium, and isogen. Isogen and noxium are low-sec ore. So you can find those in low-sec, in Pochfin, which can be quite dangerous. And then megasite and zydrine are from null-sec. So you're going to find those in null-sec areas, plus spodumene in low-sec potentially. And so these 4 materials are going to be a little bit harder to come by as a person that's not willing to venture into dangerous places to do it. However, that is where border ore comes into play. CCP has recently created border ores. Any system, even high-sec systems, that border a change in like a high-sec to low-sec or high-sec to null-sec or low-sec to null-sec, those border systems can spawn border ore asteroid fields, which in contiguous high-sec are snapped up very, very quickly. But high-sec islands in particular are really good for finding this stuff, by the way. We can see here we have Vulcinium, which comes with pure megasite. We have Eiferium, which is pure Zydrine. We have Mordunium, which is pyrite, whatever. We have Yttrium, which is pure isogen. I feel like there's one more, but it also has dark ochre in there as well, which has Mexilon and isogen. I think there's at least one other thing that's in there. Maybe there's some Gneiss in there too. But the point is that if you mine border ore, you can get basically every material that you need. And the good news is that this is actually, like, the rare materials are needed in pretty small amounts. Yttrium now there's 900% more Yttrium in the sites, if I remember correctly. You're better off just mining the extra high-sec ore and selling it for the low null ore. I mean, I don't disagree with you, Jeff, but the idea is that if you're trying to make this from scratch, so you should market, you can market to get these for, but I'm just showing you that even somebody who stays in high-sec could, in theory, gain these resources for themselves if they wanted to, if you're really, really dedicated. The point is that once you get all these minerals, which it isn't very much, it's 1.4 million worth of minerals total, and these doodads, which again, so the fuel blocks require fuel, which is ice, which can be mined even in high-sec, and PI, which can be done all over the place. You build the life support backup units and auto integrity preservation seals, then that goes together to make yourself a Catalyst Navy issue. And again, the real value of this... Hey, thanks, Thrans. The real value of this whole thing is that you can take your own LP, you can go out there, run some plexes, come home, buy a BPC, build it. You know, like, when I get a Catalyst Navy issue killed at this point, I go, ha ha ha, and I go and build 12 more. Since I keep myself stocked in these Navy ships, I mean, I don't fly Myrmidons, I fly Myrmidon Navy issues. I don't fly Vexors, I fly Vexor Navy issues. So I get to be like an elite pilot with my equipment, but I spend, as far as ISK goes, a relatively low amount. So I can make that money through PI, through doing the hacking sites or other ISK generators to make Abyss, for example. And I can get the absolute most out of the ISK I do earn by turning my LP into these ships. And then when you have an excess of these ships, you can just sell them off. They do sell on the market pretty well, depending on what race you are. So you keep yourself stocked up in good ships, and you also get yourself some material to sell into the world. And all you have to do is mine some moons and some rocks and do some faction warfare, slam it all together, and easy peasy. You should be able to take care of this yourself. If you're in Convocation of Empyreans, obviously we've got we've got sellback programs and buyback programs to help you at any given step of the way along these lines. You know, you can mine our moons, have our transport, bring it to the manufacturing facilities. We try to keep even the rarer materials on hand for people to buy if they need it, and just crank out your own ships, man. I want to see Aderon guys out there in Catalyst Navy issues and Vexor Navy issues and Executor Navy issues more than anything else. So, Malak, unless I missed anything, I think that just about covers how to produce Navy ships. Yes, but this is also an interesting way for him to explore various game mechanics that many people might not know about. Also, like, finding out what is better is a very personal thing, right? To Jeff, limiting the amount of time you have to do and the difficulty in figuring out what to do might be a bigger priority, in which case mining what you know, selling it, and getting the stuff you need may make total sense. But if your priority is to learn about as many different things as possible, like, these things can function as challenges. Okay, well, where do I get isogen? Okay, well, how do I mine in low sec? You know, that kind of stuff. So I think that the point here is that you get out of Eve what you put into it, right? So yeah, you could just buy this stuff on the market, or you could use this as an opportunity to learn more about how EVE works, which is why I think that industry and market is actually one of the best ways for people to actually learn and understand the EVE Online, because the more you pay attention to the market is driven by player actions. So you can keep track of like what is actually used, what are the metas, how do these things go, by seeing what does and doesn't get sold, how much things get sold, and by starting to understand the various pressures that change the prices of things. Yeah, and I didn't know anything about the border mining thing. Exactly. I wanted to bring that up exactly for that reason, which is that a lot of times my videos are just an excuse to bring up as many different things about EVE Online as I can. AO ores are one of the most valuable ores in the game right now. That's correct. That is actually a good point. AO blue stars in nullsec regions in particular are the ones that have the most of this ore, which is why, by the way, it has the Mexilon, I think it was, ore, because this doesn't only help give you low sec minerals for high sec and low sec, sorry, low sec and null sec minerals for high sec and low sec, but also gives you high sec minerals for null sec, which is often cut off from high sec minerals sometimes. So that's one of the ways, and the 900% increase in Yttrium is a perfect example of the fact that they can actually adjust how much isogen is in the system without changing anything about anything else. They don't have to change any belts. They don't have to change any rocks. They just have to make it so that more Yttrium spawn in these sites. And look, there's more isogen out there. But it still requires people, like, it's not consistent. You still have to go out there and hunt for it or be lucky to find it and opportunistic, which honestly, being opportunistic, hunting for these things is not as productive as just being opportunistic when it shows up. There is something to be said about being an EVE Online, logging in, and just doing the thing that is the thing for the day, not even knowing what it is ahead of time. You know, this is very true in wormhole space. It can be true in faction warfare, and it's how I play my game, honestly. Diversification and all that stuff. But on that note, I think I need to wrap things up so that way, because my son is coming home. So I do want to say thank you to everybody, and if there's any last minute questions, comments, and concerns, can you explain how to find places to build things? Yeah, so if you go to Utilities Structure Browser, you can see that there are different structure types. You can look for stations, citadels, engineering complexes, navigation structures, refineries, blah, blah, blah. If you don't want a citadel, then you would just, or if you don't want a player structure, then you would just go like this, and it's only NPC structures now, right? And then you can put in a service filter for, let's say, industry. Now, every structure with industry will show up here. Now, also, you can go and add in engineering complexes, for example, and we see that there's more there. And if you want to see the index of the structure, however, you need to open up your industry panel, go to facilities. I'm showing the structure browser because there's other things. If you want to find a clone bay, it's really good for that. It also, there is one other thing that's true about this that makes it worse, which is if you notice here, the only service is industry. But the problem is that industry is actually divided into 3 different things: reactions, invention, and manufacturing, right? So there's reaction something different on here. I don't know. Apparently reactions aren't even there. Anyway, my point is that it is better to use the industry window because it gives you more information. So we can see here that that this structure has different tax rates based on the system cost index and the different role bonuses and all that sort of stuff. So you can actually look up exactly which structures can do what. So, for instance, the HQ can do everything but reactions. So can Divoolej, but this Tatara can do reactions. Okay, and some structures will only do manufacturing, won't do research and development also. So we can go like within 5 jumps. For instance, this station here only does manufacturing. It has no research. If we look it up here, we can see it just says it's industry. There's no difference between these, even though here you can see that there's definitely a difference between what facilities they do allow. So the industry window is actually the best way to look for what facilities you want to do to manufacture. I think that about covers it. All right, well, in that case, I've been Ashtarothi. I've been playing this game since 2010, talking about it since 2012, and I'm here to put Eve into context for you, my fellow Empyreans. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, watching the video. If you're still here, make sure to like the video and leave a comment if you haven't already. Let's see. What is your favorite Navy ship? Thank you very much, Sheesh. But what is your favorite Navy ship in the game? I recently just played around with the Griffin Navy issue, and I kind of like it in a weird, naughty way. But let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I want to give a special thank you to all of my top supporters, which may not include everybody, but Abyssus, Aikawarazu Chan, Arkas Ilring, Arydanika the Queen, Belligerent Neckbeard, Black Rose Noble, Dajat Lemmont, Drake, Golden Age Stories, Jake Kuhn, Lumi, Malak Starfire, Midnight Space... Oh, Malak Starfire is not immortal. Midnight Space Monkey...
Awesome.
Updated. Midnight Space Monkey, Not Just Fun, Seeds of Plenty, Nolen with No Eyes, Syliana Vel'ash, Tgen Tgen, Nephilim, Grendel, Yantey Lepouf, Zaul Nex, as well as my Immortal tier patrons or supporters, 745 MPSI, Ebo Leet, May, Malak Starfire, Merc Utan, Nihilum, LM1, and Rid. Thank you guys so much. If you want to join that prestigious list, you can go ahead and become a member on the YouTubes or a supporter on Patreon, and you get access to the Discord channels and flares and cool stuff on the YouTube channel, and of course the knowledge that you are what makes this channel possible. Thank you guys so much, and thank you for all of you who managed to sit through all of this. One more time, like the stream before you go. I've been Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden, and until next time, I'll see you in space.